City Council meeting for the 26th of October 2022 officially opening. I'd like to remind everyone that in accordance with Council's Code of Meeting Practice, other than the public forum section, this meeting is being live streaming. To start today's proceedings, we will have the acknowledgement of country and the prayer of council and the affirmation. And for this, I'd like to invite Pastor Stephen Reddish of the New Life Christian Ministries, who is coming here today to read the prayer in this. And if I can invite the pastor, please, to lectern. And can I invite everyone to please stand?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and councillors, for inviting me here today. The acknowledgement of country. Before we begin proceedings, we'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet and their ancestors, past and present, the Karbarugul clan and the Darug Nation. I also acknowledge that the land was accessed by peoples of the Darwuwal and Darug nations. We affirm our hope and dedication to the good government of our city and well-being of all Liverpool's residents, no matter their race or creed. Today we affirm our hope for sound decision-making by council, which will improve the quality of the life in our city. We express our expectations and best wishes for Australia, our nation's future, the Mayor, councillors, staff of council, and all those associated with good government in Liverpool. Let us pray. Father, we welcome you today in the name of Christ Jesus, and thank you for this opportunity to serve our community of Liverpool. We recognise the task is vital, and thank you, Lord, for the gifts and abilities that you've given each of us so that we can carry out our duties. Father, we thank you for this great city of Liverpool and the people who live here. Holy Spirit, we humbly ask that you guide us today. During our meeting, help us to treat each other with dignity and respect. Guide us through the agenda and assist us with the difficult decisions we will make. Help us to make decisions that will benefit the Liverpool community. Amen.
Thank you. Thank you, Pastor. Could I please invite everyone to remain standing for the national anthem?
Australians, all let us rejoice, for we are one and free. We've golden soil and wealth for toil. Our home is good by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts, all beauty rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains that let us sing, advance Australia fair. Beneath the radiance of the cross, we'll toil with hearts and hands to make this commonwealth of ours renowned of all the lands. For those who've come across the seas with boundless plains to share, with courage let us all combine to advance Australia fair. In joyful strains that let us sing, advance Australia fair.
Thank you, everybody. Please be seated. There are no apologies and condolences. I'd like to move that we allow Councillor Calienda to attend the meeting remotely. I have a seconder, Councillor Green. All those in favour, against, I declare it carried. The next item of the agenda is the confirmation of the minutes of the previous council meeting held on the 20th of September.
I'm happy to move with an amendment or slight amendment.
Yes, Councillor McNaught.
If I can just find it on page 9 of the minutes. I think it's just a typo, but my name is McNaughty there, and unless we're going to always refer to me as that, we might change it back. I'm happy either way. I mean, whatever. But happy to second.
Great. We'll have that amended. So moved, Councillor McNaught, second Deputy Mayor. All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried. Declarations of interest.
Yeah, I have one, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Councillor Deputy Mayor.
Conv 05, non-pecuniary, significant. The applicant is a close friend of mine. I will leave the chamber. Thank you.
On which item?
Conv 05.
Conf 05. Councillor Goodman.
I also have the same one. Conf 05, I will be removing myself from the chamber.
Yeah, and likewise, I have similar to a couple of meetings ago, Conf 05. I'll be leaving the chamber. Okay. Now we'll move into the public forum. First, I'd like to. We have four speakers today. First, I'd like to invite Miss June Young, who would like to address council on the sponsorship for the Lifeline MacArthur West Sydney Ball. Miss Young, if I invite you to the lectern.
Thank you, Mayor Manoon. Good afternoon, Mayor and councillors. My name is June Young, OAM, President of Liverpool Greenway Rotary Club, and I am here this afternoon to personally present Liverpool Council with a plaque and a certificate to thank them for supporting the Liverpool Greenway Rotary Black Tie Ball, which was held on the 26th of June 2022 in support of Lifeline MacArthur and Western Sydney. I am joined in the chamber today by the CEO of Lifeline MacArthur and Western Sydney, Veronica McDonald, and manager Sandra Cartwright. I'm also joined today by Rotarian Janice Harle, who worked tirelessly also to make this ball a success. Liverpool Council generously sponsored the ball to the tune of $5,000, along with other generous sponsors. The end result of the evening was a donation to Liverpool MacArthur and Western Sydney of $87,500. Liverpool MacArthur and Lifeline MacArthur and Western Sydney, while based in Campbelltown with a smaller subsidiary office in Parramatta, covers an area from Lithgow down to Penrith, Parramatta, Blacktown, Bankstown, Fairfield, Liverpool, Campbelltown, and all areas down to Wollongong. This service is manned 24/7 by qualified consultants to answer the phone and to speak to those in dire straits and those even contemplating taking their own lives. This service is imperative in our area, as I personally have heard of suicides here in Liverpool, Campbelltown and Fairfield. Young students who have taken what they believe to be the only way to solve their problems, business people who have lost their way during COVID, community members and elderly people who simply have lost faith in trying to go on. Every day we see the advertisements on the television or radio to contact Lifeline if you have a problem, and yet these tragedies continue. Family, friends and community are losing wonderful people, and Lifeline MacArthur and Western Sydney is there to help. Without the support of Liverpool Council and our sponsors, Liverpool Greenway would not have been able to raise these urgently needed funds to support the training of qualified consultants to provide funds for extra services, particularly to young people. On behalf of the Liverpool Greenway Rotary, thank you Liverpool Council for thinking about our community, and supporting both financially and by council and council staff attending our black
Grant an
tie
extension.
ball. While I have the floor, I would also like to officially thank Liverpool Council for supporting the Rotary Club's Liverpool Police Officer of the Year. I have been the coordinator of this event for 22 years, with another 2 years as secretary. Liverpool Council has sponsored the event since its inception, and we are so grateful for their support. While excess funds are donated to Police Legacy each year, we commence each year without any funds and have managed to donate over $35,000 over the years to Police Legacy. Over the last 3 years, we have also provided a $5,000 scholarship each year to a junior Police Legacy ward to assist with their first year of training as an apprentice. Our local police do an amazing service in this community and to the greater areas of New South Wales, particularly during the pandemic and the recent floods. They have gone beyond the capabilities of many to ensure our safety. Anne Stanley, Federal Member for Werribee, acknowledged Liverpool Police and the Liverpool Police Offer Awards during Police Legacy Week last month, and many other federal and state members have also acknowledged our efforts to support our Liverpool Police. Liverpool has a record of being the second Rotary area to start these awards, due to then Area Commander Bob McMahon starting them in Fairfield and then bringing them to Liverpool. These awards are now held in conjunction with the New South Wales Rotary Police Awards, and again I'm on that committee. Thank you to Liverpool Police, Area Commander Adam White, police officers, Liverpool Council and our other sponsors. Thank you, Mayor. And I have this plaque and certificate for you that I'll give you at late.
No worries. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, June. I now would like to invite Dr. Chris Moore, who would like to speak to Council regarding their support to the residents of Casula regarding stopping the pub.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to say thank you on behalf of Casula community for helping to defend us against the pub.
To the council meeting today.
Sorry, can you just try to speak closer to your microphone? We're just having difficulty hearing you.
Sure. Can you hear me now?
That's much better. Thank you.
Okay, cool. I mentioned previously, I just wanted to thank Council for inviting Greg and myself to the council meeting today. It's a really good opportunity to get together and brief you on the outcomes of the audit and to provide an opportunity to ask any questions. We've now completed the audit of the financial statements for 21-22, and we will be issuing an unqualified audit opinion. So that means the financial statements present fairly and they comply with accounting standards and the Local Government Act. First of all, I'll run through the report on the conduct of the audit. So that details Council's performance. And then Greg will talk about the key areas of focus for the audit and the audit outcomes. He'll also touch on the Auditor General's reports and the upcoming performance audit program. So we start with the performance ratios. As you know, the Office of Local Government prescribes 6 performance ratios which are audited and included within Council's financial statements. So Liverpool Council exceeded the benchmarks for 3 out of the 6 ratios. So they were the unrestricted current ratio, the debt service cover ratio, and the cash expense cover ratio. Council didn't meet the industry benchmark for the operating performance ratio. So this ratio looks at how well Council contains operating expenditure within operating revenue. There was an increase in other expenses due to a decrement on investments and an increase in depreciation. Council didn't meet the benchmark for the own source operating revenue ratio. There has been an improvement compared to the prior year, but Council didn't generate enough own source revenue to meet OLG's benchmark. Council also didn't meet the rates and annual charges outstanding percentage. So ratepayers are continuing to experience difficulties paying rates on time, and that's due to the extended impacts of the pandemic. So if we move on to the next slide, that's the income statement. So this slide illustrates the movements in key items within the income statement. The first one there's the rates and annual charges revenue. So that increased by 6 million. This is in line with the rate peg set by IPART and the increase in the number of rateable properties. Grants and contributions revenue decreased by 24 million due to the decrease in capital grants and contributions. The operating result was a surplus of 108 million, which was 27 million lower than the prior year, and this was due to the decrease in capital grants and contributions as well. If you strip away the capital grants and contributions, the net operating result was a deficit of 12 million, and this was due to the decrement on investments, the loss on Civic Mutual, and increase in materials and services expenses. If we move on to the next slide, that's the cash and investments. So the council's total cash and investments was 469 million, which is 111 million higher than last year. Externally restricted cash increased due to an increase in developer contributions, and internally restricted cash increased due to the loan reserve, which relates to Liverpool Civic Place. I'll now pass on to Greg to talk about the key areas of focus.
Thanks, Larissa. We identify a number of key areas of focus in our audit that helps us guide our audit and focus on the risks of the audit. Civic Place is a large capital project for council, and therefore it always commands some of our attention. Management assessed the fair value of the Liverpool Civic Place project and concluded the costs incurred appropriately reflect the fair value at the reporting date. We agreed with that assessment. A comprehensive valuation of operational land and buildings was carried out using an external valuer. We reviewed the valuation and were in agreement with it. Rural firefighting assets are a topic of some interest within the local government area. As in the previous year, Liverpool Council recorded these assets in their accounts, which we agree with the treatment of. Impact of COVID-19 was another area of focus. Council discloses the impact of COVID-19 in their financial statements, which is appropriate. Council does have some land that is contaminated, and it records the remediation costs in its financial statements, which likewise is appropriate. We tend to always look at it, information technology controls as part of our audit to help us understand the risks and the controls in place, informing our opinion on the financial statements, and we were happy with those controls for our audit. If we could please move on to slide 6, thank you. The Audit Office collects information and prepares a report on local government every year, and our teams across the state are in the process of doing that. That report will summarise the key audit findings. It'll report on themes across the sector arising from management letters that we raise. And there's likely to be a chapter that looks more closely at cyber security, information technology controls, and asset valuations. That report is expected to table in late April next year. Next slide, please. Thank you. Our performance audit section has an annual work plan covering the next 3 years. It's available on our website if anyone would like some more detail on it. And it's split up by different sectors that we audit. So there's a section that relates to local government. There'll be some audits on effectiveness of financial management and controls, cyber security, coastal management, code of conduct, road maintenance, climate risks, the Western Sydney Aerotropolis, and performance management and monitoring. Next slide, thanks. There's going to be some changes to how our audit's conducted in future years. The financial audit side of this audit will be contracted out to a private audit firm, and the Audit Office will oversight that audit and issue the opinions. Currently, that's going through a tender process. We expect an audit firm to be appointed around December later this year. The contract's likely to be for 3 years with an extension or possible extension for another 2 years. Thank you. And does anyone have any questions?
Councillor Haggerty?
Yeah, look, in the absence of Councillor Hachidi, I've taken it upon myself to be the person that asked several dozen questions about the financial statements in this term of council. Firstly, can I actually thank staff for the financial statements? I went through them, highlighted a whole bunch of stuff, and then when I went to the notes, I pretty much crossed out all the things I'd highlighted because they were well detailed in the notes. So, good set of financial statements there. First question is just on the debt service ratio. So you said that's still within the benchmark set by the New South Wales government, and that's with a significant amount of the borrowings from Civic Place sitting on the balance sheet. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, that's still within benchmark. Yeah. Thank
you. And just on the impairment, I noted that, but I think you've noted in your presentation that the increase in impairment is primarily due to some contaminated lands. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Okay. And just on cyber resilience, you looked at that. That's good. Obviously very topical, given what's happened over the last few weeks. Probably not one for the auditors, but one for staff. Could we, at some point, get a presentation just on the spend count, how much council spends on cyber and what that trend looks like sort of over time? Obviously, it's a focus, and sooner or later, some council is going to be the victim of a cyber attack, and let's not let it be ours. And I just wanted to pick up one last thing on the outsourcing of the audit. So, tell me if I'm correct, but about 5 or 6 years ago, state government said Audit Office of New South Wales will now have to do the audit of every council in New South Wales. So now they've essentially created a monopoly in terms of auditing New South Wales councils, and now they've made the decision to outsource that. Is that correct?
That's not quite correct.
Yeah.
Larissa, I can answer that if you'd like.
Yeah, you can answer it, yeah.
Sure. So the Auditor General was made responsible by legislation for the audit of all local councils, and that continues to be the case. It's the outsourcing that I mentioned is more in terms of resourcing the audit. So in other words, who does the actual audit work as opposed to the reporting on it and signing the opinion. The Auditor General is still responsible for signing the opinion. The work, instead of being done by a team of auditors employed by the Auditor General, will be done by a chartered accounting firm that carries out external audits as well. That work will then be reviewed as part of our normal quality control processes. Reports will be drafted by the firm, reviewed by the Audit Office. So essentially the quality control and the review and the issuing of the reports is still carried out by the Audit Office. So the responsibility still rests with the Auditor General, in other words.
Okay, but yeah.
But the actual audit work is done by a firm instead of by employees.
No, okay. I'm not going to argue with you because it's not your decision, but it seems a very strange way of going about things. And just finally, if you I assume you guys do audits for other councils, just in terms of how we compare in terms of our finances compared to other councils. Are you able to comment on that? Are we, we're above, below, we're doing well?
I'll take that question if I can. We can't share information from other clients that we find out during the audit. But by the same token, an easy way to compare it is that OLG sets benchmarks for councils. They're the performance ratios that Larissa presented on. So that's the level at which councils are expected by the Office of Local Government to work and to operate at. Where councils don't meet those benchmarks, that's probably a fair indicator that to you that it's not quite as expected, and some action needs to be taken to improve upon those benchmarks.
Okay, well then, yeah, circling back, once again I call out the debt service ratio. I think we were okay on that one.
Yeah, that one was okay. It was the operating performance, the own source revenue, and the rates and outstanding percentage that weren't met.
Okay, and just on the own source revenue one, is there any provision in there for the fact that we're a growth council, and because we're a growth council, we will be likely to get more grants from state and federal government, and is there any sort of provision in there, or is it just the way that they measure it is the same way for all 128 councils across New South Wales?
So the benchmark's the same across all councils, and
Yep.
it's the same 60%.
Okay, all right, I'm done. Didn't quite get to a dozen, but I'll work on that for next year. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Larissa
Mr.
and Greg. And
I've just got one thing, Mr. Mayor.
oh, sorry, my apologies,
That's
Councillor
okay.
Moon.
Just going back to the figures, you're showing that we're in deficit by $12 million. Is that correct?
Yes, that's the bottom line. Yeah.
So, and you said that was within the achieving part of the business. Is that right? According to your table.
Sorry, which table you?
If you go back 3 tables, I think it is, or three pages. I just wanted to know if the outcome was 14.6, would that have changed anything?
So I'm not too sure which table you're referring to, but I guess that negative deficit 12 million, that would link to the operating performance ratio, and that was negative.
That's right. But if we were negative 14.6 instead of 12 million, would we still be within the range of local LGA, the ratio? One more.
Sorry, yeah, it's probably easier to... Is it down one more?
Yep.
Yeah, so you can see it's negative 12 there.
Yep.
If that was zero or positive, if that was positive, then you would be, I think, within the ratio.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so effectively if that's even, then the operating performance ratio is achieved.
Yep.
Yep. Right. Any other further questions? No? Well, look, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
We'll be leaving the meeting now. Thank you.
No worries. It'll be fun, you sure? Join in. Thank you, everyone. We'll now proceed into the agenda. The first item is a mayoral minute, and it's regarding support for changing place facilities. Liverpool strives to be an inclusive place to live, learn, and grow. And Council promotes and supports access and inclusion in all areas of our business. Encouraging diversity enriches us as a community and supports individuals to participate fully in our society. Changing places provides suitable facilities for people who cannot use standard accessible toilets. They include extra equipment such as adult-sized changing benches, a hoist system, peninsula toilets, and showers. Community members and their carers are of the opinion that changing place facilities in public spaces, such as community and shopping centres, are life-changing. These facilities support people with living with a disability and their carers to access the community and vital services without the fear or the stress of not having access to facilities that meet their needs. At the opening of Phillips Park on the 3rd of September 2022, I met a lovely local resident who was extremely grateful that Council had provided a changing place facility in the new building. The resident went on to explain to myself, the then Deputy Mayor Chris Rhodes, and Councillor McNaught how her life is dictated by the access of these facilities. She can only go out for a few hours at a time, as there aren't many places that have facilities like this for her and her daughter to use. The resident can now spend the day at Phillips Park without fear of needing to leave suddenly because this facility is available. By changing our relevant planning controls, we'll hopefully see new shopping centres, for example in Middleton Grange and Holsworthy Town Centres, include a changing place facility as part of the accessible bathrooms provided. This would improve the quality of life for our residents living with a disability and their carers. And I'd like to move that Council 1, amend the relevant planning controls to ensure that any new shopping centre built in the LGA has at least one accessible bathroom with a changing place facility. 2, write to Liverpool Westfield, Fashion Free, Carnes Hill Marketplace, and all other existing local centres to consider installing a changing place facility. 3, note that the former mayor made representations on behalf of the access community to Liverpool Westfield in November 2020 to advocate for the inclusion of a changing place facility in their upgraded designs. With that being put, I put the motion forward. Councillor Calienda?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Would we also be exploring retrofitting existing council facilities to include changing places within them?
We've got that.
I know we have an ongoing program of that. I think we're just currently doing it at the Whitlam Centre.
Just do the Whitlam Centre.
Yeah, I'll pass over to the acting CEO.
Thank you, Councillor Calienda. Yes, we've just completed the changing places at the Whitlam Leisure Centre. You would have got an updated memo to all the councillors last week, which has public access. It's a great uplift. But in all our facility planning, we are looking at that and where it's relevant and appropriate. Thank you.
And I think the library and civic place would have that, but we get happy to add that as a point 4 if you'd like to, Councillor. That we
yes, I think that would be good to note as something that we are working towards.
Yeah, council look at continually retrofitting all council facilities. Councillor Rhodes?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I think that the particular size of that particular facility that we put into Phillips Park seemed to really agree with the people that use that facility. Have we got controls so that we've continuing to reproduce such high quality change rooms, or is that not being covered?
Well, this is the purpose of the motion now that we have this.
So it is based on that as an example?
I think we'll get the staff to, I'm sure, if we're to amend the DCP, which is where it would be, that would be a report that would come back to council, which I would say would specify that. So we'd have that opportunity at that point to ask that.
To find out then. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Moon, did you?
No, I'm fine.
Oh, cool. Your mic's on. Thank you. All right. Well, if there's no further discussion, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Against, declare unanimous. Thank you. Next item we have, just bear with me, we have the lobbying policy CEO 01 on page 71.
I have a notice of motion, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Councillor, what is your motion?
I sent through to Mr. Georgiakis before. Hopefully it will come up onto the screen. I'll just give everyone a couple of minutes to read through and seek a seconder for the motion. In point 2, sorry, I just noticed it's a typo on my part. It should say, notes that in its current form, the draft policy is not workable.
Do you have a seconder for your motion?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Seconder, Councillor Rhodes. Councillor Minot, would you like to speak for your motion?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to thank staff for the initial draft policy that they brought back to us, which is a fabulous starting place for us to adopt a lobbying policy. I think that we heard during the information sessions that we are one of very few councils who are taking this step, so that's to be commended. What I'm aiming to do is to make sure that we get it right from the start and that we have the option to adopt a policy that can work in all circumstances for us all, so that we're not caught short wondering what we should do in different situations. This gives us a little bit more definition and allows us to perform our role as a councillor in those situations that may occur in our work representing the community. And so I'm just after a little bit more definition and scope around the policy before we adopt it. I'd rather adopt a policy that works rather than have to come back and revisit. So thank you.
Councillor Calienda?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Can we also include that sort of relevant or appropriate documentation or paperwork can be brought back. So whether it's similar to paperwork that we already complete, that can kind of be adapted to facilitate easy declarations for councillors, or just, that the process can be outlined a little bit further.
One sec, Councillor Haggerty.
Yeah, I'll foreshadow, just as per the book. And I'll add a second point, noting that the OLG is currently working on a statewide policy or model policy for all councils.
Do you have a seconder? Councillor Carneeb. Councillor Green.
I just wondered in the conversation if there was some clarification for people. It makes it very clear there's a real difference between advocacy and lobbying. So if in terms of how residents might approach you to advocate on their behalf is very different to somebody lobbying you in perceiving you as in a position of influence to make a change in council policy for them. So I'm just thinking that maybe there needs to be a bit of a deeper conversation about those differences, so that there's not the confusion that lobbying and advocacy are the same thing.
Yeah, I think this is what the challenge, when you look at it, the challenge with it becomes, and it's better just to capture everything. So there's nothing that's what you might perceive as advocacy, or we because it's vague.
And I guess that's what I'm suggesting, that the document that comes back makes it very clear what advocacy is and what lobbying is, because there is a distinct difference.
Yep.
I'll speak against the motion. I note Councillor McNaught's comments that this is not perfect, but I think but it is an improvement, and I think that's what we need to consider here. That I guess the business of governing and the business of government is to always improve. And when you look at something in front of you, the decision you need to make is, does it improve the current situation that we're in? And the question and the answer to that here is most certainly does. It provides a great policy, and commend staff for their work on it, and it also provides transparency. Now, I note, and I've noted in my motion, that the OLG is doing work on it, and I note that Councillor McNaught has some questions about the scope, but I think we can do both things here. We can approve the policy as it stands and send a signal that we are improving transparency and governance at Liverpool Council, but we could always be improved, and here are some things to go away and look at in order to improve.
Thank you. Councillor McNaught, are you happy to adopt the point 5 that Councillor Caliendo recommended?
Yes, I'm not certain what paperwork she's referring to, but I'm happy to have all information included back in that report. That's fine.
Yep. Cool. Take the second is happy.
I'd like to speak for the motion. It's a hell of a task, isn't it? It's once you start to put it down into words, you can begin to see the difficulties in it. And I think as it stands at the moment, we've got contradictions. Thank you, Councillor Green, on your comment that it's important for us to know the difference between advocacy and lobbying. But even within the document as it stands at the moment, it seems to contradict itself in parts as to who is lobbying, and that needs to be cleaned up. So there is a real need for very, very clear, definitive definitions. We've mentioned some organisations in one part, and then at a part further on, we're saying that that councillors have to be careful of being approached by people, and quite often councillors don't know who people are when they approach them. There's all sorts of difficulties in that, but more concerning to me is how it is exactly going to work and what strain is this going to place on council in regards to cost. And not only in cost, but I'd like to see more information about how it would work. We've got no idea as to how many requests there would be for this sort of meeting, and that number is going to tell us a great deal. It will indicate the cost to council for 2 staff members to be present. It'll also indicate to us the amount of time that it's going to take to be organising these meetings. What happened? You've got 11 councillors, you might get 11 requests, and we can't all go first. So to me, I can see that there is going to be issues in actually making the policy work. I'm not so concerned about councillors. We've got the Code of Conduct, and the Code of Conduct is basically what is in the policy. So, you know, I think that I agree with Councillor McNaught. As it stands at the moment, there's a bit more work that has to be done on it. It needs to be very, very clear, very, very definitive, and tell us the costs that would be involved so that we can consider everything together. Thank you. So I think I give my support for the motion as put by Councillor McNaught.
Thank you. Councillor Khan, did you want to say anything?
Yes, I was thinking in point 5 it'd probably be better for that to read templates and forms.
Okay.
More what I was referring to.
Yep.
And just in relation to speaking on this motion, I would like to speak against it because I think the events of the last few months have indicated that there is a gap in what the Code of Conduct and what the existing framework provides for, and we as a council have received some unfavourable press as a result, and we should be seriously looking to improve transparency, address that gap, and retain the trust of our community, our residents, and our stakeholders. And this is one way that we can do that effectively. So, although it's not perfect, we need to have something that shows that we are taking this seriously and addressing the concerns that our community have rightly put before us.
Nice. Would you like a right reply, Councillor?
Just quickly, Mr Mayor, thank you. And I thank Councillor Haggerty and Councillor Calienda for their comments. And I think we are in agreement that we need to have a policy. When we adopt policies in council, we do our best to get them right and to make them workable from the outset. And what we're asking for is some more information around how this will work for us so that we can make sure that we are abiding by our own policy before we adopt it. So I encourage everybody to support the motion.
Okay, that being said, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Against? I declare the motion carried. Division's called. All those in favour, please stand. Right. Those against? All right, so put your hand up. That's fine. Khalik, stay. It's all good. Lovely. Thank you. Next item is CEO 02, Draft Community Engagement Strategy on page 88, with the recommendation on page 88.
Happy to move the recommendation with an amendment.
Yes, Councillor.
And I have some questions, but first the amendment, point 4, which I think should actually be point 3 on page 89. I would like to delete the first part of the sentence that says delegate to the acting CEO the finalisation of the community engagement strategy and community participation plan 2022 should no submissions be received, and I would just like to continue the sentence that says receive a further report outlining the details of any submissions.
Do you have a seconder for that?
Mr Mayor.
My chair just degassed for some reason, automatically. Thank you. That's all right. I'll sit up taller. Thank you. Any discussion?
No, just need...
Sorry.
Can you speak to that amendment, please?
Yes, because I have some questions that I want to ask as well. I would like to just see what comes back. And if we receive nothing more to come back, then it comes to the next council meeting
Yep, no worries.
and we adopt.
In discussion?
Can I ask the questions?
Yeah, go.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
I would like to ask, thank you for sending through those track changes. It was very helpful. My first one is, why are we changing the word council to planning authority? Please.
Thank you. I'll just hand that over to our Director of Planning and Compliance, David Smith.
Thank you. It's a good question. I don't know off the top of my head why that's changed, but I assume it's because a number of development applications are determined by the local planning panel, the regional planning panel. So I think the appropriate term has been amended to the relevant planning authority. Off the top of my head, it's probably neither a major issue. If it was council, I think that was just the more appropriate term to use.
Yeah, I was just wondering from that point of view of confusing between our policy from council and our planning panels, as opposed to planning authority, meaning the Department of Planning, being a state body, and I would like to not have that confusion. But if no one else is confused by that, and it's only me.
Through the acting CEO, we could certainly leave it as council, and we could also go council in brackets, including the relevant planning authority, to cover off if it's a panel, because at the end of the day, council is still responsible for all the administration components of a development application. It's just the determination of certain types of development applications are triggered differently. So I have no issue if council wants to leave it as council. I think that would provide clarity.
Personally, I'm happy either way to leave it as council, to put council and in brackets the planning panels, etc. I've just also had some community feedback as well, which I will encourage them to also pop on as feedback once it's on exhibition. But in page 258.7.6, just that notification perhaps could go to the 5 properties in either direction. Just they were mentioning, that lot sizes tend to be smaller and things like that, just to make sure you do capture a fair amount of neighbours in that notification process. And also, from the same constituent, was also just ensuring that the resident of the property is notified, but also the owner of the property as well, if that's a leased property, just so that everybody who needs to be notified has been, please.
Just quickly, sorry, through the acting CEO, we can certainly, if we will need an amendment to the motion that says, as part of amend the CPP to include notification to owners and occupiers. I don't have a problem with that at all. Could you just clarify the change that you're seeking to the map on 258, or is that a change that may come through community consultation?
I think she's proposing that to be a change as part of this.
As part of this?
Yes.
And is that just adding everyone on those 5 houses on the street rather than just the 2 opposite the development site?
What I think that, so if we can go 5 houses either side of the, if you put that in the middle and you put 5 each way. If
that's clear, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Is the seconder happy with that? Yep, great. Any further discussion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Against, declare it carried. Next item is CEO 03, tabling of annual pecuniary interest returns for councils and designated persons, page 92, with the recommendation on page 92. Councillor Rhodes?
Yeah, happy to move as per the book.
Move, seconded Councillor Harrell. Any discussion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Against, declare it carried. Next item is CEO 04, Code of Meeting Practice, proposed changes, with the recommendation also on page 95. Councillor Rhodes, you move.
Yes, happy to move as per the book.
Move, seconded Councillor Harrell. Any discussion? I'll Put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Against, declare it carried. Next item is the investment report, page CO05, page 101.
Move that one.
101. Thank you. Moved Deputy Mayor, seconded Councillor Hall. Any discussion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Against, I declare it carried. Next item is CEO 06.
Happy to move that way.
21-22 annual report, 112, page 6.
Seconded.
Who moved it?
I moved it.
Moved Councillor Rhodes, seconded Deputy Mayor. Any discussion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Against, I declare it carried. Next item, bear with me, is CL07 Council Committee and Governance Review, page 115. I'd like to move a motion. I would like to move a motion. Now, excuse me, because I don't have it written out 100%. So point 1 would be that we adopt the governance committees and community committee model as outlined in the report, with the following 5 governance committees. With the following purposes. And just so while I'm just councillors, the intent of this is that the staff come back to us to make this work. This is more about a direction, so it's not a black and white, it's more of a direction. So the first committee would be a budget committee, which will be about monitoring, preparing the budget, an expenditure review committee, and to look at our property strategy. Another committee would be the infrastructure and planning committee, which would look at 7-Eleven expenditure, our asset renewal, our long-term asset renewal, a PCG on our projects, sports and park upgrades, and design oversight. And major planning projects, DA and LEP. Another committee would be strategic priorities, which would be to deliver council's priorities and special projects. For example, items contained within the CSP and 100-day plan. Also our lobbying efforts and grant funding efforts. Other committee would then be operations and service delivery, which would look at the performance of the organization, service reviews, KPI monitoring, the customer experience, policy reviews, and performance of HR. So optimize. Then the 5th committee would be community committee, which would be about events, arts, community engagement. Committees to, so that's the 5 committees.
I'd like to add an amendment.
Yep, let me just continue if that's all right, please. The committees would operate, these committees would be on a monthly basis on the same day. And work on the basis that they have delegations to make delegations of council, and with the potential to have subject matter experts to be members of the committees. Sorry, yes, Councillor.
Yes, if we may, Mr Mayor, I would like to include in this motion that we maintain all the current community committees as they currently stand with their existing charters, and that those committees report to the governance committees their minutes of their meetings. And I put another point that we call for new committee members to be parts of that committee, because some of them have run out and we haven't done it yet. So we now call for new community representatives to be a part of those committees. And we again look at councillor representations to make sure that people can still turn up to these committees, because positions change. Some people may not be available, whereas they once thought that they might have been, and that we do that possibly today in this meeting.
Yep. So, if we're going to vote on the committees, we just have to have the list of the committees.
Question.
What should be there? Just one moment. Is there a seconder for my motion?
Seconded.
Seconded, Councillor Rhodes. Yes, Councillor Harold.
I notice one of the issues that I have is that we have an extensive number of volunteers in our community, yet we don't have committees where those volunteers are sort of addressed, catered for. I know we give awards at the end of the year for volunteer groups, for instance, in the environment and so on, but I can't find anywhere in here where volunteers are somehow catered for.
Great. Well, look, if I can speak for my motion, I think first I want to thank the staff for the effort they put into this report, and I guess providing clarity with regards to the function of committees where you have a governance committees, which we as councillors need to be grab the bulls by the horn to ensure that the financial sustainability and the performance of council is in line with the community expectations. Then you have the community-facing committees, which are the opportunities for us to be working directly with the community whilst we're community representatives, but working directly with them on issues that are important for everybody. So I think this will be good. I go back to the last time I was mayor, we had that day of committees. We knew we had that day on, but we were able to at least guide and deliver those projects, and I think they played a fundamental part in doing it, and I think they actually provided efficiencies for everybody involved. I think, Councillor Hall, that your point there about looking at volunteers and awards, that could be very similar. That could be captured in the community committee that exists there. This is not meant to be to cover all the dots. I think it's, like I said, to give staff a direction so they know, and then come back to us, hopefully the next council meeting with charters and so on and so forth, and the refinements within this high-level framework that's provided to them. The issue about the committees having delegation, I think it's important that if you've discussed an issue exhaustively at a committee, that is the best place to have those discussions, and then to come to a council floor and to change that, I think is not fair for all the work and effort that happens at committee. Plus, it's about efficiency and moving things along. We all have a go at council, whatever it is about taking time. Well, I think we need to move efficiently and move fast. The issue of having subject matter experts, I think that can actually add a lot of value to the way we function. If you look at the ERIC committee, that's a committee made up of subject matter experts. They they complement staff, add extra value to it, and I think that it provides a very, very good outcome. So in a scenario like this, I think that it makes a lot of sense to potentially bring that into it. Yes, it'll potentially be at a cost to council, but I think once again, you've seen the benefits of ERIC, and I think weaving that through the way we function, where it's not just about councillors, not just about staff, but actually getting these subject matter experts involved in us and providing advice whilst we're there, can actually potentially add a lot of value for this. So that's my 2 cents. Councillor Rhodes? Sorry.
Just a question. Point of order, really. I think as it stands, this motion is illegal.
In what sense?
Because we haven't included ARIC, and it's a legislative...
Oh, ARIC, yeah, sorry.
We have ARIC, so we might want to include ARIC.
Of course, ARIC is... Yeah.
Sorry, and the traffic committee.
Well, to an extent.
But we were going to address them in our existing committee meetings.
Yeah.
The traffic committee, West Rock and Riverkeeper.
Yeah, so we're not...
They're outside of council, so there was going to be a provision for them for those committees to continue.
Yeah, well, these are
through the chair. Will they be sort of specifically differentiated in this motion?
Well, these are the 6 governance committees. So if you look at the report at the moment that's provided to us, there are 7 governance committees. including Eric. So thank you, Councillor Haggerty. This now just brings it into 6. Nothing else. All the external ones don't change. The committee ones don't change. If they want to come, the staff want to come back to us and say, look, now that you've got these 6 governance committees, you may not need, for example, strategic panel or so on and so forth. That could be dealt with at the next, when the report comes back to us.
Can I ask? Oh, sorry.
Just on Deputy Mayor.
Okay, well, look, Mr. Mayor, in regard of the ARI committee already approved, I think, last meeting or the meeting before, alongside with Wizrock. And the panel, so Western Sydney panel, is it? What do you call it? The panel.
The panel.
Yeah, that one. It's a 3 committee already approved last.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yes.
So that's why the audit risk improvement committee should be here.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're just noted in there as a governance committee. It's
okay.
not
There is another question in regard of the new committees now. Who will chair these committees and who's eligible to attend? All councillors.
Well, that's what.
Quorum and what is the quorum of the committees as well? So the chair and the quorum and who can attend.
That's what will come back at the next council meeting. So it's about the staff preparing charters, which will cover all that as part of it. Yeah, Councillor McNaught.
Can I just have a look at point 3, please? Can you please roll it down a little bit? Thank you. Can I ask that while we're doing a committee review, that perhaps because I want to get the best for our community committees as well, what I'm asking is that we maintain this until we get the report back next meeting about these charters, and then make sure we are getting the best out of community committees to make sure that we're giving that opportunity. Can we have that discussion when these charters come back? Personally, I think the district forums are underutilised as far as bringing community on board with engagement of relevant situations in the different regions that we have those district forums. So I'd like to see those a little bit more beefed up. But this is potentially a discussion to have after we see the charters of those governance committees.
So, Mr. Mayor, if I may, the existing established committees of the community committees, we're going to address them at this meeting now. So we need a list of those committees to go up, and we will reappoint or confirm the people that are representatives on those committees. And those committees will continue. It is extremely important that we continue with the community, our community consultation. And the other committees are committees, as was put, which I can't read now because it's up the top, but they're governance committees that the community is not engaged in per se. These existing committees are where we engage with the community, and they also, by still maintaining those community committees, they will be reporting to the governance committee. So in a way, the community is still going back to a deciding member or a deciding part of council. But if we don't have those community committee meetings, we're not supporting the community by allowing them to have their voice and their say in council matters.
Just a question. When Councillor Rhodes says community committees, what does she mean? Does she just mean the community forum?
We'll go through them by name. Okay, we have the Aboriginal Consultative Committee.
Yep, I understand now.
We do have the Audit and Risk Committee here, so I'm presuming you're taking that out.
I get it. I just want to know whether you meant community committees or all of them. You mean all of them?
No, the community committees that we have existing, okay? The Community Safety and Crime. Which one were you concerned about, Councillor Haggerty?
No, I'm concerned about the fact that we thought we had too many committees. We went out and staff spent quite a bit of time and money coming back with a recommendation, and our recommendation is now to keep all those committees and add 6 more. I thought the idea was to sort of bring those down, and where appropriate, if we had an existing community committee, potentially put that as a standing item on one of the strategic committees. The committees take a fair amount of staff time and effort, and that there was I guess the recommendation from this review is that there is potential here to bring those number of committees down, make them work more efficiently, and be more effective. And I'm not sure by coming up with a position that says let's keep all the existing committees and have 6 more is actually the outcome that we were looking to do from the outset.
Well, which committees would you like to kill, Councillor?
I don't want to kill any committees. I just think that as per the recommendation, there's a list of committees there, and even some of them that are asterisks could probably be standing items in the strategic committees.
Well, we wouldn't need a budget review panel. CPAC advisory can be, and that hasn't met, but from my understanding, and that could be part of the community committee.
Now I'm looking at page 118.
119.
Yep.
So you've got Tier 2, the Tier 2 committees.
Yep.
So I reckon you could include probably well, they've changed, but my thinking was that the intermodal committee, the Liverpool Animal Shelter, could probably go in the sort of strategic projectsy one.
I have a problem with this because you are cancelling out the community. Council has an obligation to engage with our community. They cannot engage in those governance committee meetings that have been put before us tonight. We need to engage with our community, and I, for one, am not going to be a councillor elected to represent the people of Liverpool and then deny them committees where they've got a voice at council. That's the point.
Okay. Well, if I finish, we haven't seen the charters for these strategic committees, so there's nothing stopping what we just had at the beginning of this meeting, where members of the public can come and address on an issue. You know, we just had some expert auditors comment on the financial statements. We've had a couple of members of the community talk about issues on the agenda and other issues. There's nothing stopping that happening at these strategic committees. We started this process because we felt that some of the committees weren't effective and that we had too many. We've tried to rationalise them, but now we're going to end up with, by my count, 5 or 6 more.
So can we put up, as per the first motion, all the committee names?
Well, I can tell you, with the governance committees, I said we won't need the budget review one. We won't need CPAC, so there's 2. One.
Well, I was going to suggest that CPAC go in the Tourism and CBD committee, community committee.
Yeah, so I can go either or.
Thank you, councillors.
1 second, Deputy Mayor.
The idea of the review was to amalgamate some existing committees into others so that we collapse and make it more efficient for staff, but you still get that engagement within the community and within those committees. So, Councillor Rhodes, if you look at the Tier 2 recommendations...
I saw all the recommendations. Yeah. I don't agree with them.
Oh, no, that's okay. That's how we've come about. That's the amount.
I know exactly what you're doing, and I will not vote to reduce the communication between our community.
Yeah, so I think the issue then becomes can any of them be, I don't think we're going to end up with too many extra if we end up with any extra, but I think the point is, and I mentioned that, let the staff come back to us and say, well, you've locked in these governance committees. Now we can probably capture a few of these other committees into those already governance committees. The challenge the staff have had is that we've had workshops on this and there hasn't been any, I guess, clarity or no direction, hence why we have a report that is giving us a couple of options. So saying we can go out there and say, okay, let's get this, let's move in a direction, let's then have that discussion, maybe in another workshop, and really say, well, we don't need these committees anymore because they're captured in here.
So can we wait for the governance to come back about the charters to come back about the governance committees, and then look at the way that we set up and empower our community committees to get the best out of them Is everyone happy to do that?
No, I'm not happy to do that. What I am maintaining is that we continue with the community committee meetings as they exist now. When this is up and running, then we've got the opportunity to see what they can bring into them. But we keep these community committee meetings running. That is our obligation as a council.
Yeah, and then when they come back to us with the charters, like I said, they can say, well, you know, you've got a duplication on, probably, once again, there are, in that list of committees, there already is duplication. And they're not necessarily, they wouldn't, like, the budget review isn't at a community committee. That's a governance committee, which we've lifted up into there. Yeah, so, yeah.
So there wasn't a report coming back to council with charters and recommendations for the community committees. They were just to remain as the existing charters.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, Councillor.
Or for some clarification. I thought at the briefing that we had that we were told that there'd be a common template for committees. So where there's different changes at the moment all over the place, that they'd be streamlining the charters as well. Was that correct?
Yes, that's correct, Councillor.
So I just wanted to clarify. I'm sorry, I know we're all doing a lot of clarifying, but I wanted to clarify what I meant was continue absolutely with the status quo until we see these strategic committees, and then
they're called governance committees.
Sorry, governance committees, and then we look at our tier 2 committees and make sure that they are as effective as they can be. That's all I'm asking. We keep it as it is for now, but then if this report comes back next month, we can...
Can I make a suggestion? If we keep 1 and 2, and then we use 3 and 4 from the recommended motion, that might get us to some level of agreement.
Say what? Say do what?
So you keep your 1 and 2, but then if we put, and then get rid of everything under that, but put in the 3 and 4 that's in the book, I think point 4 covers what we're talking about here, that there's a further report to come on the community committees, and then there's a bit there about transition arrangements. So implicit in that is that the existing committees continue until we get transition arrangements.
I'm happy with that, as long as we're keeping those community committee going, but we've got to keep them going until you get these new committees up and operating, and then see whether some of them can go in there.
Yep.
These committees, in the meantime, report back to to the governance committees.
Yep. And I think I just think on that, if you go back onto Councillor Haggerty's suggestion, but the point 3 say the governance committees have delegation, because the staff need to create a charter for them. So that's the only thing I would say differently. So the point 3 to read that the governance committees have delegated decision authority in line with 377.
Can we receive the whole motion?
Point A should be to monitor and prepare the budget.
No, well, I'm still not happy with 4, because it doesn't say in it that the community committees are to continue unless there's another point. Is point 4 the end of the motion? No, well, that's not what we want.
We or you?
We need point 3 to maintain, or you can disagree with me, Councillor, if you like, but right. I am not going to forfeit the community's voice in this council.
I move that the motion be put.
Yeah, wait up. I haven't accepted the amendments that you recommend, Councillor. So we're...
Point 4 covers your concerns, Councillor Rhodes. The community committees will continue.
That's a report to be tabled back to this
please.
council.
and another report will come back saying what the makeup of the community committees look like. That's how I read point 4. And I'm getting a nod from the relevant manager.
You can vote for it. I won't.
If I can refer through the CEO to the Mr. Emperus, just to give us maybe some clarification of how we can make all this work.
I'd be happy.
Yes, Councillor Rhodes.
If we go down a little bit we get rid of point 4 and put in. Can we scroll down a little bit? Maintain all the current community committees with their existing charters and that those committees report to the Governance Committee. The committees to be reassessed for their effectiveness after the charters of the Governance Committees are established. Make that point 4 and you've got me happy.
Okay.
Governance things come back, which is, I think they're the same with different words.
All right. Thanks. Well, I'm happy. I'm happy to, as I think Councillor Rhodes is the seconder of the motion, so I'm happy as the mover to have it like that.
Are we going to call to keep those community committees meeting continuing now? Are we going to address and vote in the representatives?
I'll pass the acting CEO.
Thank you, Councillor. We can assure you that all committees will continue as they are until a further report's brought to Council with the charters and all the other recommendations, if there will be so. But other than that, the committees will continue with the representation and the charters.
With their old representation. Yes. So we're not going to be calling for new members? No. New community members?
The view is that we're going to bring the report back within the next couple of months, so we will call on for new members.
And we don't have meetings in those couple of months anyway.
Yeah, thank you.
Are you happy with that? That's your wording on point 4? That's your wording?
Yeah, because I'm not so sure I'm understanding the reassessment of their effectiveness after the charters for the governance committees are established. That is so that we can look at some that are already being covered in those governance committees. But the difference is that when they're in a community committee, they're there for the community. When they're in the governance committees, you've cancelled out the community.
I think, Councillor Rhodes, I think what that captures at the moment when you see the list of committees, there is the, as I mentioned, there's the budget committee, there's the strategic panel, they're in that. So I think that's what's saying it's more targeted at those ones versus the actual community stuff.
I understand that, but there are no community representations in the governance committees. Is that what we're saying?
Well,
yes.
Yeah, we can have that in the charter, but I know we're saying subject matter experts, right? So we could have a community member. But, yeah.
Mr. Mayor, how can you report back to the governance committees if the governance committees are not established yet?
I think it's a good question. I think it's transitional. I think we maintain the status quo until they're all set up.
Presuming that those community committees are maintained, they would report back to the governance committee, just as the minutes of the meeting.
Sorry, can you put your microphone on, Councillor, please?
But the governance committees are not established yet.
No, well, that's right.
So how are you going to report back to them?
Okay, well, we have to take out then that the committees to be reassessed for their effectiveness when their charters of the, we're either doing, you've got to make a decision. Are you no longer going to be held responsible for communicating and collaborating with the community? If you go to the governance model, it does not include the community. And I believe it is one of council's fundamental rights and one of us as councillors' fundamental rights to be engaging with the community. So you do need those community committee meetings.
Yeah, I think Councillor Rhodes, what the intent of this is about splitting the motion, saying these are governance committees and these are the community committees. And nobody wants to get rid of community committees. They say yes, we need them, but do we need 12 of them? You mean can they brought down to 8? I think that's all the question is. So
and What I am saying is that we continue with our community committee meetings until these other governance committees are set up, operational, so that we can see that there is not going to be any disadvantage to the community by moving them into a governance committee meeting where they no longer participate.
So if we add that as a point 5 that says that we continue functioning as is until this new system is set up.
And operating. Thank you.
And operating. All right, beautiful. All right. That being said, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Against? I declare it carried. And I'd like to call a toilet break, and we'll get back till 3:50 p.m. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I declare the meeting resumed. Next item is CO08, the annual financial reports for 21-22. Page 123, recommendation on page 123.
Move that way.
Move Deputy Mayor, seconded Councillor Harrell. Any discussion? I'll put the motion.
I've just got a question.
Yep.
This is a question from the constituent. I haven't had a chance to have a look at it. I only got given the question last night. And the question was, has there been enough funding provided in the forward quarterly budget to enable parks to be maintained during the summer period every 2 weeks?
Thank you, Councillor. We have done some increase in our resourcing to allow for more activity in maintenance within our parks, but I will hand over to Earl, our Acting Chief Financial Officer, for further clarity around the budget.
Through the CEO, we are currently doing the budget review for Q1, and we will look at that whatever that request to be included in the budget if we need to.
If we could have that discussed and a report given to Council. I've been told that we need almost a third of finance to be supported to it and everything for them to be able to do that during the summer months. So I just need to have it checked off that we've got the opportunity to do that if we can.
Matt Morris, our Director of City Presentation, also provided some more clarity.
Yeah, through the chair. Last night this was raised at the community meeting last night, and it was a bit about how often would we be able to increase our services from every 3 weeks to every two weeks in the summer months. So took it on notice last night, and we're going to actually probably come back with a report via that from that motion. I think this motion arose from that. Is that correct? Yep.
Cool. Thank you. Okay, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Against? I declare it carried. Next item is Plan 01, Leppington Town Centre Review, Rezoning Review, page 126, tab 9, with a recommendation on page 127.
I'm happy to move it.
Moved Councillor Rhodes, seconded Councillor Harrell. Any discussion?
Are we adding that change room into that? Oh, we can't do that here.
No, I don't think that's the... We just Councillor Moon is whether the mayoral minute regarding change rooms, whether that would affect this.
Through the acting CEO, the motion on the mayoral minute will be looked at through the DCP review. So there's two DCPs, obviously the Liverpool DCP and the Austral Leppington DCP. Based on the intent of that motion, we'll look at both.
Thank you.
Great. All right, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. It's a unanimous. Sorry, is Councillor Calienda back?
She just sent a message saying she's having network issues. So I think, can we just put her as she left the meeting until she figures that out? Thanks.
Next item is Plan 02, page 136, tab 10, with recommendation 137, Post Exhibition Report, Amendment 95 to Liverpool LEP, Schedule 5, Environmental Heritage.
Happy to move that way.
Move Councillor Rhodes, seconded Deputy Mayor. Any discussion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. It's a planning matter, everyone. Please, everyone. Against? Declare it unanimous. Next item is Plan 03, page 142, tab 11. Recommendation on page 142, quarterly report, clause 4.6, variation to development standards.
Receive and not
Moved
deliver.
Councillor Harrell, seconded Deputy Mayor. Any discussion? Put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Against, I declare that unanimous. Next is COM 01, page 147, tab 12. Recommendation on page 148, the draft social impact assessment policy.
Happy to move that.
Moved Councillor Rhodes, seconded Councillor Green. Any discussion? All those in favour, please raise your hands. Against, I declare it carried. Next item is COM 02, page 151, tab 13. Recommendation on page 152. Yes.
I just have some questions, Mr. Mayor, about that that item. So when we look at the box on page 153, there's a couple of the sites that were selected. There's a cross in the within budget box, and I just want to know if we've actually taken account of that with the additional funds that are provided in the report, or are they still some unknown issues? And secondly, before you hop up, did we do any community consultation about the location of these pictures as well? Thank you.
Thanks for the questions. Through the Acting CEO. In relation to item number one, the costs have been apportioned relevant to the funding that's available, and we believe that we can execute these projects within the funding that's available. Some of the sites that we nominated or we viewed, the costs were a little bit higher, and that's because things like goalposts are fixed in place and we would need to remove them, re-sleeve them, and inflates the cost and so forth. With regard to your second point, community consultation hasn't been undertaken specifically for the sites. However, I would point out that how this got onto the table is a result of overwhelming feedback from the community that simply we don't have enough cricket pitches.
I've got some questions, if I may. Thank you very much for that. Yes, the community consultation was raised at the Eastern Forum last night. They asked the question, how was the site decided upon? I think you've sort of explained that to us. They also mentioned that the ground surface, because it's used for tag football, I think, up there, isn't it, during the winter months, and the continual use now for cricket, does that create any sort of implications regarding the conditions of the ground, it being used all year round? Like, will it be up and ready and running for the tag football when it starts again?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Councillor Rose. And through the Acting CEO, the short answer to that is, will it affect the surface quality to the detriment of, I guess, future viability of the use of it? And the answer to that is we don't expect it will. Cricket, by its nature, is actually quite a low-impact sport on fields. But even allowing for some impact, we have the capacity to relocate and I guess cease bookings from time to time. The intended use of these new cricket pitches is primarily to accommodate use on community groups. So while we've got our district cricket associations and so forth that run cricket on a week-by-week basis under the umbrella of a state sporting organisation, we still have significant demand from community groups, informal community groups and cultural groups who are seeking to run cricket competitions outside of that framework. Now, typically they're only 6 or 8 weeks in duration. So if we find ourselves in a situation where we're looking at the lack of durability of a field, we cannot take a booking for a period of time to allow the remediation of those grounds.
Excellent. And they had one further question. The matching grant was for 39,600 for 3 pitches, and they questioned the council has to contribute $51,000. They said, how much was applied for in the grant, and how come there's this discrepancy if it's a matching grant?
Yeah, it's a good question, and thanks through the Acting CEO. The installation costs of the pitches was quoted in this process. We sought the maximum cap from Cricket New South Wales in the submission. The maximum amount is 50% of the cost for installation. Now, additional to that, there is a cost of soil testing, and the difference between the 50% amount and the amount contributed by council is simply soil contamination testing costs.
And what if there is contaminated soil? What do we do then?
It's a great question, and through the acting CEO, I'd say that we wouldn't use that site for the purpose of cricket, and we would need to consider what remediation works are required.
Thank you very much.
Can I ask one more question? Sorry, and it's maybe not to you, but thank you. Mr Mayor, if I could just ask that when we put this on community feedback out for exhibition, is there any chance that we could maybe put some social media around it just to draw people's attention to the fact that there is an exhibition? Because, you know, there's been a few, I imagine that there's overwhelming support for this. However, I just want to make sure we do capture local residents who may not be aware it's on exhibition.
Yeah, no problems. Can we, somebody move and second the motion? Now that
Happy to move with the amendment that we extend social media.
Pardon?
Oh.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't hear them. I heard the question, not the moving. So moved and seconded, Councillor Moon.
Questions?
Right.
Questions?
Pardon?
Questions?
Oh.
Yeah, questions still going. Yep, go for it.
Okay, well, look, in regard of improving some of the sites, it seems to me we're going to improve two sites in the same suburbs, both of them in Hammond Valley. So can't we do something just to allocate one of them to Ron Jersey Oval in Miller, if we can spend some extra money? So just to spread it for all suburbs instead of like spending money on two sites at the same suburbs, you know what I mean? So what is the extra cost if we decide to go that way?
I didn't quite catch the question. Do you mind asking that again? Spread the love in terms of geographical locations? Yeah, it's a good point. And through the acting CEO, how I would respond to that is by saying, look, firstly, we looked at all sites across the LGA, and we tried to pick sites that are site suitable for cricket first and foremost, that can be delivered for close to or within the budget framework that the funding has the funding amount that's been allocated, and then the sites that have the least impact on current users. And what we know from the analysis that we've done is that there's some sites that have lower levels of usage than others, and the impact is lower on existing users. We can review the sites and try and get a greater geographical spread. The consequence of doing that will simply be the impact on existing users.
To me, mate, the site at Miller, it's a lot of people, a lot of residents using this site. You know what I mean? So the only issue you noted here, it's within the budget or out of the budget. So it's not a matter of like how many people using this site or not. You know what I mean? So what I said, instead of spending money at one suburb, let's just spread it around. If we can pay an extra dollars to have another site in Miller, it would be great.
I'll just pass over to the acting CEO, please.
They are getting one in Ashcroft, Maz. Okay, sorry, Councillor Hedy, they are getting one in Ashcroft, so that's in Miller, pretty much.
Perhaps if I could, for the point of clarity.
Sorry, can I just pass over to the acting CEO, please?
Thank you. We can review the various sites, but I am in my current discussion. I am in current discussions about potentially broadening the grant so we can get more sites done. So these three were selected based on what our manager of recreation and community outcomes has just pointed out. But it looks like in our purview we've got potentially another one or two that we can potentially do, but I can't confirm at this point.
Perhaps if I could, through the acting CEO, the recommended sites are Australis Park at Wattle Grove, Craig Park at Austral, and Blandfield Oval in Liverpool. So it's intended to try and provide a geographical spread already. But if those sites are not suitable, we can look at other sites.
All right, great. All right, I'll put them on.
Sorry, just wanted to note, thank you for bringing this to council. Obviously, this Councillor Caliander tried to bring this up as a motion last month. But I will say, happy to share them, but I don't think I need to. There's a support letter here from Fairfield Liverpool Cricket and the Sydney Cricket League, which Craig alluded to in terms of community cricket. So we're talking in excess of over 1,000 players. Many of them live in Liverpool. They're going to use these facilities. So this would be a great outcome if we can pass it. Thank you.
Is that lobbying?
Point of order.
I think it will be next time, actually. I think it's very valid. Yeah. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Against, I declare it carried. Next item is City Press 01, Chain of Responsibility Telematics, page 156, tab 14, recommendation on page 156. I would like to move. Where's the recommendation? It is the recommendation, isn't it?
I can move a motion, Mr. Mayor.
Wasn't the motion we put last time?
I can move a motion and then you
Sorry,
can...
just 1 second, if I can refer to the Acting Director of City Services. The recommendation here, isn't that from the previous motion? That council receive a report at the next council meeting on the cost of adding telemax for the 6 months, prioritising heavy vehicles?
Correct, that's the one that we've just provided, yeah. The report
Okay.
back, yeah.
Yeah, so there is no recommendation as part of this.
No, there was a costing, it's to provide a costing of what it would cost for 60 vehicles.
Yeah, so I think the recommendation was supposed to receive and note the report. Yeah, so yeah, all good. Yep. So
I would like to move a motion, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Rhodes.
That number one, proceed to add telematics, prioritising heavy vehicles, provide funds from general revenue, and provide a scheduled plan together with budgeted costs to council based on the costs provided per vehicle that itemises the type and the number of vehicles that can then proceed in line with budgeted items.
Yeah, I think you mean maybe a project timeline. So plan the schedule, yeah, so. Yeah, cool, I'm happy to second that.
We've got a price per vehicle. I think that we know that we've got to do this and it is a bit of a priority. I haven't determined the number of vehicles because that is a budgetary consideration as to how much council believes that we could afford to start this project and get it moving, and then provide us with a continuing budgetary item until the job's done.
Yeah, wonderful. All right. Any discussion? Put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Against, I declare it carried. Next item is Pres 02, Road Surface Technology Report, page 159, tab 15, with the recommendation on page 159.
I'd move with an additional point 4. That council write to the state government requesting matching funds for metro councils as per the $50 million regional pothole fund.
Yeah, cool.
So, I can speak to that if you want.
Yeah, no, second to Councillor Goodman.
We're happy. So this was announced while at the local government conference the other day that there's a $50 million fund to fix potholes in the regions. As a number of representatives from metro councils made the point, there are also potholes at metro councils, and the minister that was there at the time is the regional roads minister, and he acknowledged that, and he said he would have that conversation with, I think it's Natalie Ward. So those discussions are already happening, but I think a letter from us endorsing that would probably help things. So.
Well, we know how many potholes there are in Liverpool, don't we?
Still waiting for a report. No, they're getting fixed, thankfully.
I've got a question. There's a certain amount. We've got to do a certain amount of work before we can actually start fixing the potholes, and I believe that's what we're talking about when we seek partnership with other organisations. other councils are more advanced than what we are in trialling and testing the components that go into the fill that we're going to be using to fill the potholes. Report back to council if a partnership is established. I think we need to add in there perhaps something about cost. And so there would be a cost with the partnership, and perhaps a time frame, like what are we looking at until a partnership is being able to be formed? Because we've got the potholes, so are we going to keep filling them? How we've been doing it, and is that what the $50 million request is for? Perhaps I need clarity on that.
Yeah, so the $50 million fund was to fix all the potholes, like emergency fund to fix potholes that are around at the moment in anticipation for school holidays. There's going to be a lot of people travelling on the roads. And the harvest period. Now, we don't really have a harvest period in Liverpool that I'm aware of.
We do actually. There's a lot of farms here, so there is a harvest period.
Well, I guess there is, and there are other things that I'm aware of that we do grow, that it needs to be harvested from time to time. But yeah, it's mainly about getting it all done before the harvest period and the school holidays. So it's an emergency fund. It's no way intended to be a permanent fix. It's a fix to, after the floods we've just had.
Keep us rolling on with the potholes. So the first part of it is this new way of going about doing things with new ingredients going in there with a bit of glass and whatever. And in the meantime, whilst we're trying to form a partnership, trying to find out more about that procedure and working out which is the best way for council to go and what is the most cost-effective way to go, we continue to use hot and cold mix until that partnership has been established. And in the meantime, ask the state government for some money if we can get it. Is there anything else we need in there? We've got a report coming back to council if a partnership is established. There will have to be a report back on the new way that they're going to be using or filling these potholes in a more substantial way. And do we have to go through all of that investigation if we can get that already from a council that is more advanced than what we are?
Mr. Mayor, I would just like to thank the staff for this excellent report and ask for this motion to be put.
Seconded.
I'm happy with the motion. I'm just asking questions. Well, there's two parts to that motion. One is to continue what we're doing and get money for it to help us. And the first part of it is about a new way of filling potholes.
Well, if I can say that what we should be adding this is that we should be increasing our expenditure on our civil team. And I think as we prepare the budget, right through the acting CEO.
Thank you. I'll hand over to Terry, one of our managers, a city presentation.
Okay, through the acting CEO. We're currently meeting demands to fill the potholes. We are using the practices of using hot mix and cold mix. We are looking at new technology that lasts longer, because at the moment it's a make-safe process. So the minute it rains again or what have you, or heavy vehicles go over, we're having to go back. Now technology is getting a little bit better with the cold mix, where it's not requiring emulsion and it tends to last longer. It's been guaranteed. I've watched the video where they've actually filled a hole underwater, so that they didn't have to clear the water. The deal with the recycled crushed glass is to lower the cost, especially when it comes to potholes and heavy patching. But it's a process that we're waiting on the sidelines and gathering data that's been discovered through other councils and other departments to see whether we're going to take it on or try to put through to get an increase in budget to push forward ourselves. What would happen is it would lower the cost because you'd be using less asphalt and less crushed concrete by using recycled crushed glass, which it's shown some better compactability. So it will last longer if it gets used in the sub-base.
Well, that's excellent news. Is there a time frame when we might expect back to be in a position that we might be able to pursue the cheaper and the more durable method of filling potholes?
I expect to have an answer before the next council meeting.
Excellent. Okay. I commend council for their work.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Against, declare it carried. Committee reports. Second to Councillor Carneeb, it was.
Oh no, all good.
I've got one that I've got to pull out. It was the in the Safety Committee. Amendment to that on page 177. Action Council to request police for their input and data on race-related crime reports in the Liverpool CBD.
All right, cool. So
we just need the word CBD put in.
Moving all committees with that one amendment. Yep. Moved. Deputy Mayor, seconded Councillor Harrell. Any discussion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Against, declare it carried. Questions with notice. Does anyone have anything they want to bring up?
Yes, on my one. Question one.
Yep.
So I know I've asked this question, but essentially, if a job, all jobs are advertised on the council website, yes or no?
Yes, that's my understanding.
Okay. So we wouldn't go and just advertise a job on Seek and not put it on the council website?
Procedurally, that's the way we've always operated. However, if there's an error, that could be just an error of a human error, but that's the process that we put it on the council website, and we also put it through the other channels.
Okay. The reason I asked is that there was a job that was brought to my attention that was advertised on Seek for a senior policy officer. So I couldn't find it on the positions vacant on council's website. So if we could take that on notice and, if that was an error, thank you. That's it.
Anyone else with questions with notice?
Just a couple with number 5. Thank you very much for the information for that. I guess, first of all, a point in my question, I referred to the club having approximately 2,000 members, and I note the response includes the number of players in the club, but the club themselves runs through volunteers, and so they themselves include all of the players and their families as members of the club. So that's just the difference, I guess, in the numbers there. I think we need to think about that when we refer to the community. And just another quick question. How long does a master plan usually take?
Thank you, Councillor McNaught. Normally a procurement process for a master plan normally takes around 3 months to execute, unless we have someone on a panel that we can use. Following that, it's normally a 6-month process, depending on engagement. But I will get confirmation from Galovich on that.
Through the acting CEO, aside from the procurement, depends on the scope of a project and the requirements within it. So I would say anything between 6 to 12 months for master plan, depends on the scope of the project.
And have we started that master plan?
It is currently underway, yes. We're doing the procurement, the back-end work for it, but yes, it's going to be executed. we're trying to fast track that one.
Okay, so, okay, I'll leave it at that for now.
Cool. Anything else anyone have from questions with notice? Councillor Green.
I refer to question with notice number 2. I just draw attention to point 5 in terms of the likely consequences for Liverpool Council's withdrawal from these important networks. And I think just in reviewing what the consequences might be, I guess I would be putting a motion forward that the council does not withdraw its membership from these 2 working parties. Because it's not only a loss of expertise and networking for council staff, it's also about reputational, risk of reputational damage to Liverpool Council.
Yeah. Council, you'd have to put this up you'd have to rescind the motion that was passed
Okay,
in
I'll
the
do
last
that for
meeting.
next week. Next week, God forbid, no, next month.
All right.
Okay, that's fine.
Cool. Okay. So we'll now move on to notices of motion. First one is Norm 01, Councillor Calienda. Sorry. 1 second.
I'm back. Yes, hello.
Back. Sorry, was that yours or was that Councillor Haggerty's? No, that's your
This
motion.
is mine. Yes. Yes.
All right.
Look, I think the background is pretty self-explanatory. I think we have had a number of discussions in the last few months around local employment opportunities, particularly for young people, particularly for those who are from migrant refugee backgrounds, and trying to make the best use of the coming opportunities over the next sort of, 5, 10, 20 years. And apprenticeships and traineeships are really important way of doing that. And as an anchor institution in this area, Council has the opportunity to sort of, be a real source of movement in this space within the broader community. I think, even from some of the commentary provided by the acting CEO, and I thank the acting CEO for providing that information. There is scope for us to do more. So with that, I'll put my motion, and I hope that my colleagues will support it.
I'm happy to second it.
Yep. Move Councillor Calienda, seconded Councillor Haggerty. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Against, declare it carried. Next item is Norm 02, Councillor Calienda.
I would like to withdraw my notice of motion for the time being.
No worries. Thank you. Cool. Next item, Norm 03.
Yes. This is in regards to some significant land which is rather ecologically important. And it's been before council once before, where we tried to investigate whether there was an opportunity to purchase the land in order to be able to save the ecological significance of it. And unfortunately, the block that we were looking at was sold over the Christmas period, was it? I can't remember exactly when it had. But it came to my notice when the current government, the Federal Minister for the Environment and Water, the Right Honourable Tanya Pipplesick, started to say that the significance of preserving and protecting the natural bushland and vegetation in order to address the effects of climate change and the need to save precious habitat to protect endangered species, she reignited the debate about it, and definitely there seems to be a change, and I think that this is an opportune for council to push this a little bit further to see if we get a better result than what we did last time. There was a petition raised for this particular matter the last time it was presented to council, and it was supported at the last time it was presented to council. But it failed to deliver the result that they hoped. And the constituents who live in that area and frequent the area often claim that the parcel of land at Voyager Point in question does contain vegetation significant species that are endangered, and in some case is the last known footprint of some of the species to be found in the whole Liverpool LGA. There have been recent sightings of koalas in the area, and koala skate is readily found as evidence of their presence within the land. And there's other sightings of other endangered species. The green and golden bellfrog has been recorded as being seen over there. And Australian animals such as kangaroos, echidnas can also be found in that particular area. An interesting thing that happened recently was there was air quality monitoring done in the Liverpool LGA. And the survey found that the native vegetation along the Georges River significantly contributes to the cleaning of the air, and therefore provides a significant service to help rectify Liverpool's purported poor air quality. And because of this, any environments along the Georges River would be doing Liverpool a greater service if it was preserved. Particularly seeing though the EPA keeps on reporting Liverpool as having the worst air quality in Sydney. Now, these issues have been raised by the constituents. This was again raised by the constituents, and there are a number of points, as I mentioned, the air quality, the significant animals, the flora and fauna that is found in that particular environment. And I urge councillors to vote for this motion, which is relatively the same as it was before. Of course, we had to take out the bit about purchasing. We're no longer interested in purchasing, but we're just asking that council investigate the rezoning of the properties so that we can, from C3, environmental management, to C2, environmental conservation. That will protect the land just that little bit further.
Can I ask, as part of it, how this affects us in Council's resolution about having a continuous bike track along the length of the river, and whether this land potentially forms part of that? If I could ask, that comes back as part of this report. So maybe as a point 12.
What was that? Oh, yeah.
Can I make a suggestion? Can we remove point 2? Because it's covered in point 8.
Yeah, well, I thought that myself, so I'll refer it to Mr. Smith, who helped me with the motion, that point 2 is is already in there as point 8. So if we just remove point 2, we're achieving this.
Through the acting CEO, yes, it's a double up. I don't think point 8 was originally in there, and I think it's just been put back in. So it's the same outcome. So
we'll just remove point 2 and leave it as point 8.
And just a question in regards to, I guess we're only investigating, but for the second time in this meeting, I'm going to put my Councillor Hachidi hat on. Is there some... does it open us up to reputational damage or compensation if, I know this land's been privately purchased, that after being privately purchased, we come in and over the top and effectively devalue it by downzoning it? Is there any issues there?
And point 9 says consult with the owners, so they will be well, you never know. They might not want to see the environment destroyed.
Through the acting CEO, Councillor Haggerty, if this motion is passed, it's an investigation only, so it's not committing council to changing the LEP at all. So if endorsed, we'll put a report together. This resolution does ask staff, if passed, to consult with the owners to get their views, and then obviously any decision moving forward about whether a planning proposal should be prepared and sent for gateway determination will be still a matter for the elected council.
All right. Seconder for the motion, Councillor Green. Discussion. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Against? I declare it carried. We now move into the confidential part of today's meeting. So, if there we'll go. We don't have to go into closed session unless there's someone that wants to go into depth on.
Convo 4.
Vote for.
Yep.
Vote for what?
Convo 4.
Oh, you want to go into closed?
Close, yep.
Huh?
Yeah, if we can go into closed session for that.
Okay, you want to go? Yeah. Okay.
But the others are fine, I think.
All right.
Councillor McNaught.
So let's
Convo
go.
2. Do we need to go into closed?
Possibly, yes.
All right.
What's Convo for it? That's mine.
No,
That's legal
Four's
affairs
mine,
report.
two's yours.
No, I'm happy with with the answers.
Okay.
Sorry. Just wrestling my books.
There's a lot to wrestle.
No, I'm okay with not going in.
All right. So let's go. Conf 01, page 695, with the recommendation on page 695.
Yeah, move it.
Mover, seconder. Moved Councillor Goodman, seconded Deputy Mayor. Any discussion? Put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Against, declare it carried. Conf 02, page 716. Moved Councillor Goodman, seconded Councillor McNaught. Any discussion? Put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Against, declare it carried. Next item, Conf 03, page 720. Moved Councillor Amoon, seconded Councillor Green. Any discussion? Put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Against, declare it carried.
I think I can do this without going into closed session.
Good. Okay.
So
Go for it.
Go. All right. Conf 4, take this on notice, but there was a recent media report about a former employee and a unfair dismissal case. I would bring that to council's attention and just request more information on it in a future date. Thank you.
No worries.
And if I may, I'm still waiting on a figure for all the deemed refusals that I asked for in the strategic meeting.
Yep.
Just report back on that.
Cool. All right, lovely. All right, mover, seconder. Move.
What'd you say?
Councillor McNaught. Seconded Councillor Mamoon. Discussion. All those in favour? Against? Declare it carried. Now, sorry, okay, just before you go, we have to elect a chair for the meeting, considering the mayor and the deputy mayor walking out. We have to nominate. I'll nominate Councillor McNaught.
Come on.
Huh? Seconded Councillor Moon. Huh?
Oh, never mind. Your day will come.
All right. All those in favour of Councillor McNaught chairing the meeting? Against? Declare it carried. And you can close it because I'm going to continue walking up. Thank you, everyone.
Everybody for your attendance today. It's 4:35 p.m. and I declare the meeting closed.